Man, I've got a good one for you tonight, Galactic Family. How are you doing tonight in the Galactic Family world? We have the next paradigm shift, the next phase of disclosure. Today on the Galactic Family Podcast, we're honored to welcome one of the leading voices in the disclosure movement, Stephen Bassett, Executive Director of the Paradigm Research Group. For decades, he has been at the forefront of the fight for government transparency on UFOs and UAPs, working tirelessly to push disclosure into the halls of power and the public conversation. He has briefed public leaders, engaged with the media, and stood as one of the most consistent advocates for bridging the truth and bringing it to life. In this episode, we'll dive into the latest UAP news and explore the shifting political landscape and hear his perspective on what might be coming in this extraordinary moment in history. So buckle up and let's welcome Steve Bassett to the Galactic Family Podcast.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, how you doing, Steve?
Thanks to AI, everybody's podcast has primo graphics now. Stuff that, particularly back in the 60s, people would kill for, right? It would cost a fortune. They have to have a team of people put it all together. Now we boom, bam, boom. It's
One
like,
person.
It's great. I don't have a podcast, and I don't think I'll ever will. I do have a website, though, and I got to AI that puppy pretty soon, or nobody's going to want to look at
it. Well, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be a problem. Somebody will jump on that for you. So can you define for me disclosure, recognition, and confirmation, and what minimum concrete act by the U.S. government would satisfy that?
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion over this word disclosure.
Okay,
I take responsibility for a lot of it. I get it. It's not. People hear about it from different sources, and people have less knowledge, more knowledge, and I understand that. But I've been pretty much consistent for 25 years now on this, and so let me quickly express it. One. There is disclosure with a capital D and disclosure with a small d. Just like Earth with a small e stands for that stuff on the ground there. You can kind of grab, take it up, smell it. But you put a capital E on it and you're talking about a planet. All right. So we're talking small d, capital D. The small d disclosure refers to, in the context of the UAP issue, essentially the entire effort going all the way back to the 1940s.
Yeah.
Get information out about this, particularly information confirming that it's not human in origin. That's now 80 years on. All right. And that's the disclosure small d process. And as we go into the future, I assure the small d disclosure process, referring to the revealing of information regarding the UAP, ET issue and so forth. Not obviously it can apply to anything. Yeah. Right. But in the context of our subject matter, it's referring to that kind of information. That will go on indefinitely the rest of our lives. Capital D disclosure is a proper noun, and I created it and defined it. So I can't be wrong. I am always right about capital D disclosure. It was a term that I came up around 2001 to describe the prize that an activist movement needed to have an activist movement. There's always been a little of it, but it really didn't get going until about mid-1990s, early 1990s. So around 2001, I said, we need a prize here. Why are we doing this? Why all this effort? Where is it going? And it needs to have an endpoint. It needs to have a finish line. And I said, well, it's simple. We want the truth from the government about the ET issue. But what's most important? What's the most important thing we need to know from the government? Well, that's easy. The government has to confirm it's real. It's true, rather. It has to confirm that we have this non-human presence. And everybody has their own opinion about the form of this non-human presence and so forth. But a non-human technologically advanced presence could be ET presence, whatever you want to call it. That is The confirmation of that is the fundamental truth that must be obtained. That's disclosure with a capital D, as I defined it. And it can't come from just anybody. It can't come from a pilot or an astronaut or just a smart scientist, whatever. It's come. A lot of people have said there's an ET presence. I assure you, people with rank and station and multiple degrees, that didn't do it. It has to come from the head of state. And
Okay.
the head of state is also the commander of the army, right? Our president is the commander of the armed forces. Ultimate authority, has ultimate authority over classification, has to come from the president, in which case then what needs to follow will follow. So confirmation from the head of state is capital D disclosure. Now, in addition to that, there's two processes going on. There's the small d disclosure process, which is always happening every day, one way or another. Stuff's coming out here, coming out there, through lots of new venues or new methods, such as the internet, social media, all that stuff is part of small d disclosure process. And that will continue for the rest of our lives. Then there's the capital D disclosure process. And what that is essentially the activist movement, which is aiming to end the truth embargo, which is another term I came up with, and get confirmation from the president. It is mostly activists. So when somebody does some good research and finds something very interesting related to this phenomena that people focus in on, that's basically research, and it's small d disclosure, right? However, the new information tends to put pressure on the government policy of embargo, which in that sense, it means to have a certain activist aspect to it. So that is the terminology that I'm operating under all the time. The disclosure process has been incredible. It's been amazing. It's been going on for 80 years. It's amassed an unbelievable compilation of evidence of every form, paid for by citizens out of their own pocket, very little, almost no support from philanthropists, certainly no support from the government, which is basically that it's nonsense. And it's done well. The capital D disclosure really didn't start getting some momentum until the mid-aughts. In other words, the real momentum began with the run for the presidency by Secretary of State Clinton. That really opened the door for some serious activism, frankly. Not that there wasn't some before, but it took a much more grand stage because you got a person that looks like they're going to be president. They've engaged the issue. It's known. It's on the internet. Her husband engaged the issue, some of their key advisors, and so forth. And so it was all a nice little package. So that got going. But then she didn't win. And so there was a bit of a step moment there. And then in 2017, some activists, pretty much, these were activists. I don't care what their job was with the government. But CIA, DIA, scientists, they came forward in an activist action designed to really goose the whole process and advance it towards resolution. And of course, those are the 7 people came out in 2017, most of whom are pretty well known now. And that is where we are now. We're at the 7th year of that activist effort, which has then added to whatever everybody else has been doing, and we're very close to maybe getting victory here.
I should hope so. I mean, it's been a long time coming for all of us. I know, me personally, it's just seeing everybody, like they come out and then they get bad mouthed, and then they come out and they get bad mouthed. Like it's a cover technique. That's what I understood when I was in the military. If somebody comes out and they have something good, you got to throw something out there to muddy the water.
Well, yeah, that all activists get trolled. All activists get criticized and even attacked. Sometimes they even get burned at the stake, right? So this activist movement has been very little violence at all from either side.
I'm glad with that. Now with the disclosure that's coming out, well, not coming out, but with the hearing that's coming out, are they going to be putting in back into the legislation, or did it get passed already for the Whistleblower Protection Acts?
Okay, here's an update on where the
Yes.
the disclosure, capital D process
Yes.
is with respect to the congressional
Okay.
activity. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Good.
In a nutshell, Senator Schumer and Senator Rounds earlier this year made it clear they were going to reintroduce the UAP Disclosure Act, virtually word for word, from the one
Good.
they introduced in 2023.
Good.
That got kind of substantially reduced in the reconciliation process, and then ultimately passed. It was okay, but almost all the most important stuff in the bill, the power aspects of it, were taken away. But that was passed, and then the next year they introduced it. Came back and said, "Oh, we're gonna reintroduce it again," which was very notable.
Yeah.
This is a substantial thing they've done. They're not coming back and say, well, here's a new compromise bill that takes it. No, they came in and said, we're going to reintroduce the whole thing, because that bill was just what we needed. It had almost everything we needed to do this right and take us forward to advance this issue. So, but they reintroduced it as an amendment this time, as a different avenue.
Yeah.
In order to avoid the reconciliation process, as where it got chopped up the year before.
Mm-hmm.
But the amendment process has its own rules and regs, and one of those is that there are certain members of Congress, I think it's like chairmen of certain committees, that have the ability to block it, just put in a block, right? And somebody did. It's not clear who, and so they realized, well, it ain't going to go anywhere, so they withdrew it. All right, so it never got submitted as an amendment. Now, what's happened is that earlier this year, they reintroduced it for a third time, the same bill, okay? And the circumstance that they're taking a little different approach this time.
Okay.
Partially, they can do that partially because so much progress has been made that it's opening some doors and pathways that weren't there before. So this time they're introducing it. They introduced it and sent it into the Senate just before the recess, giving all the senators, while they're home, having a
little bit of time.
Read it in their leisure, maybe go to bed reading the bill, whatever. So they expect it will have a vote as soon as they get back in September, early September, first week of September. It will likely pass.
Good.
And then the strategy is the next week after that, second week of September, they're going to send the bill to the House as is, with at least one co-sponsor, Representative Earl Burleson. And we're trying to get maybe a couple more. I've met with one office. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I mean, there's still time. And why is this important? If you send a bill over to the House that you just love to get an up and down vote, the House Majority Leader has this power. And no, I'm sorry, we're not going to vote on that. And that's the way it is, right? That's the way it is.
Okay.
And so there, you're stopped right there. However, if you have a co-sponsor, maybe a couple of co-sponsors, that gives the bill a little more gravitas. It increases the prospect that the majority leader will say, "Okay, let's take a vote on this."
So this bill has some backing to it,
right? So. And will it work? No, the House Majority Leader could still say forget about it, but it is another. And I think the chances of maybe getting an up and down vote are much better than they were a year ago and maybe even 2 years ago. So what does that mean? If it gets an up and down vote, it might not pass, but every member of the House has got to say yay or nay on the UAP Disclosure Act. They have to take
on the record.
All right. And then if it doesn't pass, then it might, I think, I could be wrong, but I'm not an expert on all this stuff. It's rather labyrinthine, but they get thrown into a reconciliation process where they try to modify the bill so that it is acceptable to be voted on. But again, slightly different approach. So that's happening, very significant. But in addition to that, a hearing has been scheduled finally after 3 or 4 non-starters, right?
Yep.
And that's okay. And the reason is that there's been so much chaos in the last 3 months that the idea that it was hard to get that hearing locked down shouldn't shock anybody, and they shouldn't.
No,
take
and
anything
I'm
away.
okay with that as long as there's progress being made, and that's great. It's okay. People get sick, people get, this, people have, schedule conflicts, and you can't come at somebody 3 days before a skiff and say, hey,
Well,
come meet
no,
us here.
but it's more than there's plenty of reasons why there could be delays. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
complicated thing, but there's other reasons. In other
yeah,
words, they need to get certain witnesses, and this is not some trivial hearing we're talking about.
yeah,
And so every witness has got very much many issues to consider. And I think a number of witnesses weren't ready yet because they're not quite sure the protection is yet robust enough, which is there's some truth to that, or they're not available. And then there's other circumstances. So it was tough. But what's important is that in spite of all that, they just kept working at it until they got it. So here is what I know.
Okay.
A hearing has been set for September 9. I believe the hearing is being conducted by the Federal Secrets Task Force,
Okay.
which is chaired by Paulina Luna.
Mhm.
But I think that Eric Burleson is in fact going to chair this. Now, it's possible this hearing is before one of the subcommittees of the Oversight Committee. But I'm thinking it is the Secrets Task Force. It's going to be for the 9th. Now, for whatever reason, there really isn't. I'm looking for an official announcement. It's just not there. I cannot find it. But there are, quote, informal or unofficial announcements kind of turning up on the internet. Fine. So it's kind of uncertain. Some of the details are uncertain. So what I can say, there's going to be a hearing held.
Yeah.
And there has been some information on the net referring to the room and the time, but I'm not going to give that out because it has not been confirmed to me. I don't want to have somebody get the wrong info and miss it. So but I think within a few days, 3 or 4 days, certainly no later than the return to Washington September 2, we will have the time and the day at the time in the room. And then people who want to come are going to have to decide how much pain they want to go through to get in that room. Okay, I've been through it twice, let me tell you. And the one good thing about it, okay, is the first one was brutal because everybody wanted to come. I mean, it was massive. So you got there early in the line. Like the second one was even worse because that was in November. It was freezing cold. Both hearings were in the mornings, by the way. And so I got there at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, and it's like below freezing. And we stood out there for 2.5 hours before they opened the door. That's what it took to get into that one, right?
Wow.
And then once I get up there, about 40 people cut in front, right? And I wasn't really paying attention, and so I barely made it in to what was an expanded seating. And if I hadn't made it in, I was going to be an unhappy guy. Okay, so
yeah,
this hearing may be later in the day. If it's later in the day, it makes it a little easier. But the level of interest, I think, is approaching the level of interest of the Grush hearing. So could be a lot of people showing up. And so I've put a query into the Burleson's office as to, first of all, the details, including if they'll have an overflow room with live feed. And if I get that information directly, then I will put it out right away, but I can't predict if I'll get that. So we have that hearing coming up. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some other things going on, which I've talked about on many podcasts, and I'm going to continue to repeat myself. I get a bunch of them set up, and I may have 50 before the end of the year because I haven't set out a blast yet to my 270 podcast links.
I heard you on that one podcast, and you said I need to set this message out, and I was like, well, I've already had them on, so I'm gonna have you on again
anytime, once a week.
Last time it was for Danny Sheehan was having his birthday, and you were in the hotel or something. You were downstairs, and the party was going on upstairs. You were like, I gotta go, I gotta get upstairs before it's over.
So here's the deal.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is not trivial. Now, people can interpret it different ways, but it needs to be given serious consideration. All right. four particular events, I guess you could say, actually 4 particular podcasts, which is where everything is now, right? If they get a cure for cancer, somehow some big podcasts are going to be involved in it. I don't know how, but they're going to help cure cancer, whatever. The podcast world now. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got one, except me, and that's the way it is. Okay, so with that in mind, 4 podcasts. The first one was January 15th of this year. And the podcast was, the podcaster was the son of the president, right? Donald Trump Jr. Well-known individual. Actually pretty good as a podcaster. He's quite good. He's good as anybody out there. And he has a substantial viewership and archive following. Mm-hmm. And so it's 5 days before the inauguration of his father. And he brings on Luis Elizondo and Ross Coulthard, 2 of the most well-known and involved people in the entire issue. One a journalist, one a witness. And they talk for 2 hours about the subject. Now, I'm just going to suggest that the chances of that being a scheduling coincidence, meaning, I had no idea my father was going to win the presidency here. Or I forgot when the inauguration was. 5 days before. That was a very, very significant thing, which right away at the time, I said there's only one way I can interpret that, how would you say, juxtaposition. Mm-hmm. And that is a testing of the waters. Yeah. A reading of the room. Meaning here is a very safe way to put that issue out, clearly indicating that there's a connection to the White House and the new administration, and see how the reaction was. Did people get all upset and start, screaming at Don Jr.? What are you doing? What's this? No. So you want to read that room, and you can just read the damn comments when they have comments on videos, and you can get a good test of the waters. People do this all the time. And that makes total sense. It's safe. It's not official. And you get a nice read. And then he gets inaugurated, and no more podcasts from Donald Jr. on that. And we move forward in time. But I was carrying that around in my head. And I'm thinking, that's interesting. Will there be anything else that looks like that? And months went by. All right. We got into February and March, April, and June, and into July. And then all of a sudden, and a lot is happening during that time. You understand, during that time, there's a lot happening in this issue, getting plenty of media, plenty of press, and so forth. And then all of a sudden comes the hot podcast disclosure hat trick. All right. And I learned about this on X, of course. Most of the stuff you're only going to find social media. It's not going to turn up in the Washington Post. So I'm cruising around and I learned, boom, this just happened. Podcast. Oh, okay. Not a podcast I knew about. I think it was 2 gentlemen that were running it. I'm sure it's probably great, but how many podcasts are there? About 14 million now? Mm-hmm. So it's like a podcast. Okay, no big deal, except the guest was the Vice President of the United States, who doesn't do a lot of podcasts. And I'm going, well, that's interesting. Yeah. And then as I read what happened, I realized that the Vice President of the United States allowed the UAP issue to come up and discuss. See, they don't have to do that. See, when you're the vice president or the president, and this is true back during the Hillary Clinton campaign, if you're the vice president or the president or whatever, pretty high level, and you're going to go on a podcast, if you don't want something to come up, you just say, I do not want that to come up. And it will. You don't ask that. Okay. Or if you want it to come up, you just say, I want that to come up. And it does. That's the way it works at that level. Very rarely do you see some interviewer clearly violating a sort of understanding, and then all of a sudden it's going like this and things get sometimes they rip the mic off, walk out the room. So I'm okay, fine. What did he say? Well, he's talking about the issue in a rather positive way. A little of this, a little of that, the usual stuff. It's not hard to find. Go on YouTube and just find it and listen to it. But he drops one little, and this is the stuff I'm looking for all the time. It's like I'm like a Sherlock Holmes of the UAP issue. I'm looking for that clue that solves the mystery, right? He drops this one little phrase, and most people go, "Isn't that interesting?" And I'm going, "Ooh, whoa." The Vice President of the United States is the first vice president, or the first president ever to say, I am obsessed with UFOs.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Okay. Now, I tried to get Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or John Podesta to say I'm obsessed with UFOs for like 15 years, right? And they didn't do it. Also, they never called me. They never sent me a letter. And there's probably one of those voodoo or statues in a room somewhere designed to inflict terrible.
Oh gosh!
But here he was. Okay, and I'm going, bingo. And then what? A couple of days later, another person decides to do a podcast. It's just a podcast, not some super duper one.
Yeah,
Couple of nice ladies. I don't know what the topic was. I need to go and really go through them all, but whatever, you can find them, no problem. Just a few days later. Who's on that podcast? Well, it's just the director of national intelligence, one of those low offices. They got a basement office over at the White. That would be Tulsi Gabbard. She goes on, and she allows the subject to come up, and she's talking about it. Somewhat positive way. It doesn't go as far as Vance did. But if she had said I'm obsessed with UFOs, I would have been already ordering the champagne for my post-disclosure party, right? And I'm going, well, that's. Remember, I have that whole business with the Don Jr. podcast in my head at all times. It's a permanent place in there, and I'm going very interesting, and I'm dying to find out what happens next. Well, what happens next is big. And what I'm referring to is that another very important person in the current political administration, Anna Paulina Luna, who chaired one of the hearings, is the chairman of the Federal Secrets podcast. He is one in charge with getting the JFK records, making progress. She's in charge of getting the MLK records or RFK records. That's still in the works.
Yeah.
Also in charge with getting the Epstein files. Okay.
Is that ever going to come out?
Oh, absolutely. And she's also in charge of the UAP issue. And when she listed those, she put the UAP thing at fifth, but that's not because it's less really important. I think it's the most important, but because the president had said specifically those first four. Yeah, JFK, RFK, MLK was his agenda. He did not say that getting the UAP stuff out was his agenda. So she put that at 5. All right. And because she was overwhelmed by these other 4 areas of responsibility, she turned over the UAP portfolio to Representative Eric Burleson.
Okay.
Which, as it turns out, was an excellent choice. I've gotten to know him a little bit, spent some time with him. He's very conservative Republican, I assure you, from Missouri. Mm-hmm. Okay. Pretty much in resonance with all of the policies of the administration. But he's also a very laid back, kind of chill guy. He's open-minded. He's polite. He's nice. He doesn't rail against people, whatever. He's incredibly likable, which is why I guess I think he won his election by 73% of the vote. Okay. Oh, wow. Which is like,
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, right. That's big time.
Wow.
Right? That's when they're starting to look at you for like higher office, right?
Because they know you're going to win it.
And he's really dedicated to this issue. He's open-minded. So he's talking to a lot of different people who are in some areas which are a little less important, but they're interesting. He's open-minded, taking it on. Doesn't mean he agrees with everything. And he's just great. I just think he is just the person to take this forward in terms of additional hearings. And so Luna goes on, a somewhat more substantial podcast. It's by a former stand-up comedian and MMA guy. What's his name? Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe Rogan. Almost forgot.
Oh, okay.
She goes on the Joe Rogan, about 2 hours. A 2-hour chat. This is Paulina Luna. After those other 2 podcasts, almost immediately goes on Rogan for 2 hours, and guess what? The subject comes up, doesn't it? And so she's talking positively about the ET issue, or rather the UAP issue, and the processes and the political process. And she doesn't have to do this.
She drops a lot of stuff in there. That's
right. So she goes and she starts dropping stuff in there, which I don't think it's an accident. In other words, she has been in skiffs. She
Mhm.
has gotten private discussions with witnesses. She was in the hearing. The Lord knows how much has come her way. It's a lot of stuff, not all of which she can just run out and talk about. But apparently, she could talk about this. And when
But
you watch the interview,
literally, like her saying interdimensional beings, and I'm like,
well, that was the payoff. But more importantly, she's saying that I have seen documents and I've talked to people, obviously with
firsthand, yeah,
clearances, who are basically saying that we have non-human visitors, we have
Mhm.
non-human tech. And
Yeah,
she's basically validating Grush. I mean, she's confirming Grush. Who has it? Schumer's confirmed Grush. So that's huge. But
yeah,
then she goes a little further and puts in, I guess, what sort of is an opinion that, based upon these discussions with these high-level people, I don't think she said it this way, but it amounts to this. She's kind of leaning, some of them are leaning, and he's leaning toward interdimensionals.
yeah,
Okay. Now, let me just be clear, right? Everybody has their sci-fi preferences,
yeah. I'm
right?
about half on that.
And when it comes to cool sci-fi, time travel and interdimensional stuff, man, that's cool. That's great. Going from planet to planet, that's like, yeah, I can go from London to New York in 6 hours. So it's just a bigger, longer trip.
Mhm.
So it's more exotic. But let me be clear. Let me be clear. If interdimensional capability is how these entities, which we've been talking about for 80 years, tens of hundreds of thousands of sightings, contact, and everything else, if they are coming from another dimension, that is much, much more of a problem for the Department of Defense. Okay, a much more difficult problem with all kinds of implications that it'll take a team of physicists, God knows, months and months to even probably explain it to the cabinet. So it's not like it's a plus in terms of holding back the tide, right?
Yeah.
Much better to say they're from another planet. This is from another planet. They came here. We could go there one day.
It's more what's the mitigation? It's more
Mitigating.
mitigating. Yes, it's more mitigating if they're here physically at another planet than it would be if they're interdimensional, because then they can come from
Absolutely.
anywhere.
Okay, so let's say it could be that some are putting that out there in order to confuse and muddy the waters, right? Okay,
I'm saying
uh,
yes.
it could be that they were trying to throw some stuff her way that could be a problem,
Or the threat
or,
narrative.
or maybe it's on the table. All right,
Okay.
it's on the table, but let's be clear. The vast evidence going back 80 years points to star-to-star travel. And to the extent that you can push away from that, you undermine a little bit that matrix of evidence. Okay.
Mhm.
But I don't want to get too into the weeds here. What I'm trying to say is that this is 3 podcasts in a row where very important people in administration are bringing this up. And so what you have is 3 more efforts, 7 months after the inauguration, roughly 6.5 months of the inauguration, to test the waters. What is the response on the internet? They have, I don't know if you know this, but the administration is rather into the internet, uses it a lot. And I can assure you, and this is going to be true forever, any major head of state and the administration of that head of state, it's got people assigned to monitor the internet all the time. And so they got people already there ready to go through and see exactly how people on the net responded to those 3 podcasts. And as far as I know, it's been just fine.
Yeah.
Just fine. Now, let's compare that to other things that turn up from people within the administration that go out, not so fine. All right. It doesn't mean it's not, get some positive response. We also get a fairly substantial people tearing their hair out and
Like
screaming at the top of their
what?
lungs.
Like Avi Loeb's spaceship asteroid that's on its way here? 3i Atlas.
Well, that again is a topic that is cool, and I think he's getting a relative response. There's some controversy, but it's not a big deal. right? It's okay. Not. It's all right. That I want to compare it to that, but I don't want to bring up the issues, frankly, that literally has people shooting their television sets. I mean, some people shooting their television sets, and other people, jumping up off the couch like Tom Cruise. So what am I getting at here? All right, let's just take it a logical step forward.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the White House care about why the American people, how they respond, care how they respond to high-level people in the administration or in the Congress who are of the same party speaking about this issue in a positive and normal way? Why would they care? There's so many other major issues out there. And let me tell you, they're major that, it's like, that's what you got to focus on. Why even bother with this?
Because this is so much of a game changer. It can focus our attention on that.
You're practically there.
Oh.
The reason, the only explanation that makes sense to me is that the very, very controversial, very intense issues that are facing the administration are going to be a hard road to travel.
Oh, yeah.
And it's getting worse every day. And if there was something that the president could do, not anybody else, just the president could do, that would be received with such an overwhelmingly positive, nonpartisan response, not only in the United States, but probably in most of the rest of the developed world, the world, that would bring accolades and praise and so forth to the president, legitimately so. At the same time, providing a very, very profound diversion or distraction, maybe not, that's not the word, just a resetting of the media and the public's interest for a while.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, it would take it away for a length of time, because and thus giving the administration a little more time to deal with what they're facing. That would be a pretty good thing. And this would do it, right? This would do it. For those that don't think that disclosure is anything important at all, you're not going to buy this, but I do. And so what I'm saying is that the president were to become the disclosure president, there's a number of ways to do it, but basically it all comes down to the same thing. The president, basically, with his authority and the access he has, obviously, to any file he wants to see, that doesn't mean he's seen it, but he has the access to anything. He has ultimate clearance. Nobody can say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you don't have clearance to learn it. If the president,
is there a way, like, if somebody brings up a UAP claim and someone doesn't have the access to verify it, is there a way that they can rapidly verify, like staffers could rapidly verify it without them having a security clearance?
Okay, well,
that would be
that's an issue, but let's keep these things separate.
Okay. All right.
The process, that's small d disclosure. Okay. In other words, how do you get stuff out? Who's got clearance? Right. So that's all part of the small d disclosure process, which is needed for some time. That a major act,
big
possible
one government-wise.
But I'm simply talking about the fact that the president of the United States has the ultimate clearance to see or hear anything.
Yeah.
Right. Every program, and that doesn't mean he's done it. I'm simply saying they have that clearance. And so if the president comes out and says, based upon my discussions with the people that know what you've been hearing about this non-human presence and non-human technology in the hands of the United States is true, which means that in a general sense, whether it's interdimensional or whether it's star to star or time travelers or inner earth dwellers who are not basically human, we are not alone. Okay, which will be that'll be the headline on 500
That's
people.
the big D, right? Pretty much
That's the big D.
that's what everyone wants to know. Are
That's the
we
big D.
alone or are we not? And if that comes out, it's done.
That's the end of the truth embargo right there.
But it's not
Okay.
just President Trump that needs to do it. It's Russia, China, other countries have to come out after this.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right. So let's say that I'm right about that. Let's say that they're seriously considering make that maneuver. Okay. Well, the first thing that comes up then is, okay, but this has been a somewhat complicated presidency, right? These are also very complicated times. Yeah. And so some people are going to say, I don't believe a word of it. I get it. That may be the risk that would be immediately presented. What if people don't believe it? Oh, we got a fiasco on our hands and so forth. And that's a legitimate concern, except that we're not just talking about, the inflation rate or crime statistics around the country. We're talking about the most important issue in the world, global, transcendent. And so if the president does that, other heads of state are not going to wait. They're not going to deny it. They're not going to come out and say, what is your president saying? That's all. No. You see, every nation of any substantial substance knows there's an ET presence. And by that, I mean, there are people in their government, almost certainly the head of state, know it's true. That doesn't mean they're going to say anything. And so once the ice is broken, once the door is open, there might be a bit of a delay while they go, oops, didn't see that coming. And then one after another, they're going to come out and confirm it too. Now, that's all that's needed. Yes, I confirm that. It is true. And so, boom, that is it. Now, what happens next is a process. The small d disclosure process goes into overdrive, and we begin the post-disclosure world. All right? And the information will be coming out of any government that's got good stuff. They will have their own UAP Disclosure Act or whatever, and it starts to happen. We're in the post-disclosure world, which is where we've been heading for 80 years. So I'm not concerned about the believability issue. I think it'll be supported very quickly. I do not think they're going to be calling up any other heads of state and saying, if I did this, would you back it up? Because that kind of stuff leaks like that, right? It's just, in the modern world, my friend, anything can leak. And so you got to pretty much got to be an internal decision. It's done, boom, and we do it. And so then, where are we? Here's where we are. No matter what happens to the current president, whatever his future is for the rest of the current presidency and even post presidency, whatever is going to happen, good, bad, awful, he will have that legacy forever.
Yeah.
He will be the disclosure president. He will be the first head of state that finally told the world they're not alone. Countless others, scores and scores and scores of other heads of state could have done it, but didn't. 13 presidents knew, almost absolutely certain that they knew, didn't do it. Obviously, all the heads of state in Europe didn't do it. Many of them knew, certainly the UK. They couldn't do it. They didn't do it. The Pope hasn't done it. He did it. And that is an historical legacy that is almost impossible to measure. Its profoundness. And so that is there. Okay. I'm not joking here, really, when I say that that's a Nobel Prize.
Immediate.
It's a lock Nobel Prize. I'm just saying that. I'm not trying to make a joke. And so whatever happens, the president always has that. And so this is something that I'm putting out for people to consider and think about. Go watch those 4 podcasts and tell me what you or at least decide what you think about it and try to explain them in some way. And we'll see what happens. So that gives you a picture of where we are as we approach September. Okay. It's in spite of all the other things that are happening. And there's a lot of unpleasant things happening, and one happened today. And I'm going to go there. This is still moving forward, and it is transcendent in its implications. And so if we get disclosure, it's not going to end all the world's ills. It's not going to make everybody necessarily happy, but it will change the world, start changing the world immediately, and maybe take us to a place we could be quite happy about. And that's where we are at this point.
Okay. I know a lot of people wanted to ask me. They said, well, if little D has to support big D, the disclosure, you support each other along the way. What happens when, all right, I want to call out the company, but I know everybody's going to know who it is.
Lockheed Martin?
No, Skywatcher.
Hmm.
So I get one thing in my email and I say, crap, they really can't show us a UFO. And there's one law that I wish was changed. The Atomic Energy Act of 1954, where they have two amendments in it. One is 117 and 118. One is for nuclear material, but the other one, my job in the Army, weapons of mass destruction. That could be anything. That could be acid. That could be a flying saucer. That could be anything. So if they call down that flying saucer, I've tried to get a hold of Jake Barber since he started this company. And I said, I only have one question. How are you going to get around that law? Because they use eminent domain. They used it for, they used it to raid Bob Lazar's house for nuclear material. So how do you get around that law and show the public at the same time?
Well, here's how you get around it. You pass the UAP Disclosure Act and start the whole process. Okay. The Atomic Energy Act was probably deliberately included things that allowed them to shove a whole lot of UAP stuff out.
Do we have to amend that?
It's that's part of the whole truth embargo policy. It's part of the whole management of the ET issue. Okay. But it's only one part of it.
It is. It is.
And so it really at this point doesn't matter. Okay. In other words, we don't need the Atomic Energy Act change for a president to step out. Once the president steps out and confirms the ET president, every single component of the truth embargo, known and unknown to be known, will be reviewed and changed as needed in order to service the small d disclosure process that now has legislation behind it. And the other thing is, anytime something turns up and people get all worked up about it, doesn't prove to be true, it's no big deal. If some witness turns up and they're a little off and that gets where it's no big deal. Yeah. We no longer have to keep proving that the ET or the UAP reality over and over and over again. It's been proven. It was proven decades ago. It's established beyond any reasonable doubt. However, the truth embargo thrived on a very simple equation. Okay. It's not real. Therefore, anything you think you've discovered can't be true. Okay. And therefore, there's nothing we can do. All right. And so no amount of proof was going to move it. And one of the great little, sayings or phrase about this that well describes the last 80 years. And it's so stupid and simple. It's irritating as hell, but it is what it is. Okay. If the photograph is really fuzzy, then absolutely it concludes a conclusion. Nothing can be taken for that. But if it's really crisp, it's fake. That's it. There's only two possibilities. If it's not real clear, it doesn't prove anything. If it's really clear, it's fake. End of subject. That was kind of a working thing that went on for decades. Again, this is all truth embargo stuff. This isn't science.
Yeah.
It's truth embargo stuff. How do you manage a lie and keep it under control for not 1, 2, but 8 decades? And so people get these things all kind of confused. We don't need to prove it anymore. However, if somebody comes forward with important evidence, that's fine. It's new, and there's a lot of people that don't have time to go study 80 years of research on his subject. It lets them know, oh, there's something going on here, and that helps raise the education level. But the idea that we need some serious evidence to come forward so that the high-level people, the Pentagon, will be convinced. The Pentagon has known about this since the day the Pentagon was created, period. All right. That doesn't mean everybody in it knows. It just means that as a matter of understanding, The Pentagon, represented by whoever the hell's job it was, has known about it since the day they built the building. This is just another example of how bizarre this policy is. How strange. It's the emperor's new clothes, which I think, the emperor steps out the first time and he thinks he's got these great clothes. And there's one little kid that raises his hand and says, I think he's naked. And that's it. It's all over, right? Well, this is the emperor's new clothes, but he's been walking around DC for 80 years. And everybody in government is trying to convince you. Now, he's got a great set of clothes on. He looks good. And that's how ridiculous it is. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. It is what it is. But I understand coming from the military, side of it. We do need to keep some of it to ourselves, okay? Classification wise, to like national security wise, so that other countries don't, I guess, get the tech or see the technology, get it first, develop it first, whatever. But if limits are necessary, what reductions you think are acceptable and why not?
Well, you have to if you read the UAP Disclosure Act, it essentially creates a responsible way for classified information related to this issue to make its way from, classified files, classified programs, or whatever the hell, to the National Archives, meaning the public domain, and obviously to the media. And it included a review board with very high-level impartial people appointed. And that review board decides whether something can come forward now or needs to be postponed.
That's the pre-publication and security review, or is that?
No, that stops her. That stops her. This is a new review board created by the UAP Disclosure Act.
Oh, okay.
So what you've got the president has confirmed the ET president. So everybody goes, we're not alone. It's all good. Fantastic. What do you know? And then you've got that law passed. And then things start coming forward. And people are, looking at this and checking this out and going, wow, that's cool and whatever. And they're going to know that, there's other stuff hadn't come out yet. And they're going to know that some of the most, how would you say, dangerous stuff, if there is any, are things that have, the things that have the most national security implications, certainly in the short term, are likely to come out later, right? And so they get that, but they understand that we're no longer in embargo anymore, and it's coming out, and we're going to get it. Those that want it in a couple of weeks, well, I get your impatience, but that's not the way the world works. But the people are going to be quite happy with this. They know that ultimately they're going to pretty much learn everything. And that'll be true of the other countries. They're all going to pretty much have the same approach. However, now some country might just, if they got a saucer and they don't feel like they want to be more aggressive, they may just bring the damn thing out, put it in a public square and let people, walk around it and walk in it, sort of like like a little nice program to do or whatever. They may do that. And if they do, they do. Ultimately, as long as the truth process is consistent, it will work out.
So what's the tighter bottleneck here then, and why? Defense contractors or federal agencies?
No, it's not so much a bottleneck. It's really not a bottleneck. There is X amount of pushback still happening. There is still a segment of people in the military intelligence complex where, don't know, they may all be in the DOD, or they may have some there, some over at the military services, whatever, that communicate with each other. So there's kind of I guess you could say a committee in a way that's making decisions. How they do that, we don't know. They may meet in a secret cave somewhere. I don't care. And there is a certain element within the entire management group that doesn't want this. They don't want it. And whatever the management system is, it can't prevent them from taking their own actions. And so there has been pushback. There's been pushback before. They've been pushing back since 1947. But right now in the modern world, everything they do along the lines of pushback is transparent. You can't hide it. It's obvious. Everybody knows it. That wasn't the case as you go back decades. And so there's been significant pushback, which is preventing it from going.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a couple examples. And then I'll give you a reason why it's more complicated than that. Not that I haven't said this a million times, but hey, I'll say it as many times as
Yeah.
it takes to get it in the New York Times. So it's like when the Aero and EOP task force were formed, they were not formed to get everything out. They were formed to just kind of hold in place while everything else came together. And so when Grush came out, that major event came out, the task force was in a very bad position. What do? I mean, you can't say, "Oh, this is fantastic." Let's, disclosures from the president ain't going to come from the Aero. It's not going to come from the task force.
No.
And so you had some major pushback against Grush, probably also on the basis of you're ahead of your skis, guy. We don't want to be there yet. You're screwing this program up. And so he was attacked by Kirkpatrick and others. His medical records were put out.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't by some blogger. That was the DOD, maybe even the Air Force that did it. The point is that, and he was getting threats. So that's pushback. That happened. The Aero study, as things continue to advance anyway, the Aero study, which is a completely bogus study that Kirkpatrick signed off on, trying to put the whole thing to bed. It was like the Robertson report of the 21st century.
Right.
That was pushback. Okay. It didn't work, really, frankly. Nobody believed it. Just embarrassing. But they're desperate, right? You're a little bit desperation there. And then things continue to move forward. And then another classic pushback, which they're really going to have a problem with because it's just so blatant and in print, is that as the nuclear witnesses, which as my number one project, is getting Salas and Jameson or Singelli and/or Robert Jacobs and others actually in front of a hearing for the first time under oath. Never happened. But we've been making progress there. And these are the witnesses that the Department of Defense fears the most, I assure you. Not Grush, not Graves, not Fravor, not a Gallaudet. Not that they're not important witnesses. Don't get me wrong. But the ones the DOD absolutely are terrified is the SAC base officers who were present when the nukes were shut down, while a couple dozen or a dozen or so security guys were absolutely out of their minds afraid because there was a giant glowing UFO hanging over the base. And so they decided, as a desperate act, to try to slow it down or whatever the hell they were thinking. And so I am assuming the most likely scenario is that the Department of Defense contacted a very important paper, the Wall Street Journal, which does have a rather conservative owner.
Yeah.
And it's not considered a leftist paper, so it's got maybe a political sympathy. It says, look, this issue is happening, and I'm sure you want to know more. We would like you to come and talk to some of our people inside people, right? Give you information that you might be worth a story. And of course, the Wall Street Journal is going to say yes to that. So they sent two reporters, national security reporters, to go and meet with them for a while. How long, I don't know. They also met with Bob Salas. I'm the one that gave him the contact information to Bob Salas. And that was great. Loved it. And so one of the reporters met with Bob Salas, got that story. Fine. And then they were published. I think June the 5th is the first one. And then another one a couple of days later.
Mm-hmm.
Two publications. And I couldn't believe it. I said, I can't believe this. Right. Who made a fool of who here? Did they make a fool of the Wall Street Journal? I don't know, but I'll say this. It was pathetic. And essentially, they tried to do two things in these articles, which are complete lies, by the way. I mean, that any truth in there is incidental. They made a strong case that so much, all this really important that people have been talking about, and all this stuff and stuff. And they see it. This is stuff that we're doing, that our government is doing, and they're misidentifying it. This is an old trope that's been around a long time, but essentially, yeah, it's pretty much us. Okay, that's a pushback. Okay, and then some idiot who is in charge of this little project got a little out went a little too far and decided, yeah, let's throw in this too. Let's throw in this because, you have all these pilots coming forward that are very,
Oh yeah.
Dietrich and Fravor and
Yep.
Graves, Leto and all these guys. And, these are strong, these good people. And so, just a kind of a general, they didn't name names. Thank God they didn't name names. But just to sort of kind of blunt that, push back against that. Well, we had a policy of telling pilots certain things, right, that were could be looked as UFOs and so forth. So they would then go out and maybe talk about that, but they couldn't be established because it's not really true. And that would, it would kind of water things down a little bit. And then they had the gall. They had the gall to use the word with respect to this little program where they're talking to national security servants in our armed forces designed to protect us and risk their life, that this was a hazing project. It was kind of a hazing, like it was a fraternity thing to test them or whatever, have a little fun, right? They actually put that word in the article, but it gets worse because then they had to undermine the nuke witness testimony. They had to undermine the shutdown evidence, which we have a ton of. Hastings' book, UFOs and Nukes, case closed. The documentary enhances that. The testimony that they gave in 2 press conferences, the citizen hearing on disclosure, and on and on and on. It's a done deal.
Well, I could say being in the Army, there was no such thing as a hazing when I got to my unit. It was more lines of, hey, it wasn't anything, destructive, or anything like that. Like, go over here and do this, go over here and do this. But I mean, I've never seen it like that and I've never heard it like that. And I was in the Army for, 15 years. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it like they don't do hazing rituals because, listen, the Army pays $500 for a toilet because it's self-cleaning. I mean, do you really think we're going to waste supplies to haze someone? No.
Well, you made a good point that actually points out another awful aspect of this. You probably saw the movie A Few Good Men.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that down in the ranks, right, the soldier level, all right,
yeah,
hazing can take place. It's like guys doing their thing, and we get it. And so they're playing into that trope, right? Which is even makes it even worse. But so that was a pushback. So with respect to the nuke witness thing, they in order to try to push back against the overwhelming evidence that nukes were shut down by an ET crafts or UAPs.
Oh, I couldn't believe
they came up with an alternative explanation that a 10-year-old would know is ridiculous. They said that, oh no, and by the way, there's evidence for like 6 or 7 shutdowns in the U.S. Some in we built a big EMP device, which had to be pretty big because we're talking 66, 67, and around that period. EMP not that big a thing. EMP, and to test to see if we could shut down the missiles. And missiles are shielded up the yin yang, and so anything like that would have been so powerful, it would have probably shut down the lights, in like 100 miles in every direction. And it was a big device, and it was near the base, and people thought that was and I'm going, and of course, in the process, we're basically saying that Bob Salas is a liar.
No, he was not. The EMP thing, that freaking never happened.
Right, but Bob Salas says it wasn't. Why would you
test an EMP on an active nuclear missile facility? Something goes wrong, that goes off. Oh man.
That article, which is a public thing, right, very public, went out to the world, and it can be a bigger embarrassment for them than the Aero study or the Aero study report. Frankly.
Yeah, and so that's all it's doing. It's making them look bad.
Yeah,
like, we don't know what EMP looks like back then. It would be huge.
Well, one of the people that was involved in researching or investigating the Minot or the Malmstrom case back then called me and said, "Hey, we eliminated EMP almost immediately." Right? I think that's a big deal. I'm just saying that it is, but it's what I'm talking about. It's not so much a narrow channel. It is just basic pushback? Are we going to get more of this? And so forth. And it's desperation in a sense, because there are a lot of people high up in the military intelligence complex, because they've served a long time, that are probably looking at retirement in a year or 2 or 3 years, and they're going,
So they just want to get past
let's just
this.
hold this off. I want to be down in Boca Raton, on a fishing boat when this thing blows. I want to be working at the Pentagon with some reporters climbing in the window of my office. Whatever the reason, it's not good. It's embarrassing. Stop, please. Okay. So
I mean, I wish they would hire me to investigate that, because I would have so many things that I could corroborate. Like, okay, you did an EMP test that's supposed to reach these missiles underground, so it's so high powered, right?
Yeah.
Why is my cell phone still working?
Well, yeah. Why is anything working? And so,
Still on top, the lights are still working and everything. They'd all be, unless they were hardwired.
If I was working, if I was a publisher, editor of the Washington Post or the New York Times, I'd go after that story. I mean, they got a hell of a story there. The Wall Street is a major competitor, right, to both of them, and so consequently, I'd go after that story, rip it to pieces, and score a substantial deal. But again, we're still in a kind of place where most of the heavy hitters and heavy entities and journalists are just like, okay, just get it done. It's going to happen. Disclosure's going to happen. No sense in us
just
throwing
hold
ourselves.
The dam back for now until we can figure stuff out.
Well, no, they're basically saying it's not. It's kind of different. They're basically saying it's going to happen. No reason for us to throw ourselves under the bus. It's going to happen. It'll happen. Until then, we'll kind of try to stay out of it if we can, right? Except, of course, that the Wall Street Journal just played. The DOJ just played the Wall Street Journal. So, but it's kind of like that. Look. It's like trying to give birth. When a birth goes bad and the woman ends up in labor for days, endless times. We've been trying to give birth to the post-disclosure world for 80 years.
It's like the same thing with them saying about the pilots up there don't know what they're looking at, and I'm like, no, I trust if you're a Top Gun, if you're a pilot like that, I trust you 190% because you need to know what you're looking at.
So to give you an idea of how things have changed, we now have reporting stuff for pilots. They're not going to be demeaned. Even the commercial pilots are getting freed up. There's a safe space.
I've seen plenty of video from commercial pilots and out there now.
Sure. Everybody, I got a feeling that you're not allowed to keep loose stuff in a cockpit. Yeah. So I don't know to what extent even a cell phone can be brought in there, but a cell phone is very easy to secure. Yeah. But I know a lot of people on the planes are carrying this thing. They're looking out the window, much more than they ever did. Something shows up, boom, they're taking a picture. Again, there's an amusing aspect to the birth of the truth embargo, which I'm sure will be done in some farce plays in the future or some farcical movies. It's kind of along the lines of Don't Look Up, but it's really not funny. The reality of it is not funny at all. And the need to get this done is incredibly important. But for whatever reason, complex reasons, the human race not the human race,
certain individuals,
the people who govern the human race simply couldn't accept this. And so they have just, not that, the governments don't do this. Governments will do anything they want. They'll lie, they'll steal, they'll do all kinds of awful things. I get it.
Eminent domain.
and this is kind of another abuse of privilege. But again, we are not some kingdom or empire. We are pretty much a relatively democratic country with a lot of license for people to engage, freedom of informations and so forth. So the effort to try to keep this a secret had to be even monumental. Right. I mean, they really had to work much harder than if you were a dictatorship, and they still did it. Right. I mean, oh God. Anyway, so that's a kind of the way to look at things right now. Watch for any pushback, anything new that suddenly comes up, and it's like, what? They're saying that this was really what happened, or whatever.
There was a drop that happened actually. There was a technical manual that came out online a couple days ago that said
Really?
that, the
Really?
Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin's. I have it on my phone actually. It said, let me see if I can find it here. It says, I have the whole manual here. Where is it?
You're saying a whole manual was dropped? How
Yes.
many pages? How many?
It was eyes only, and it was 6 pages.
I haven't seen that. I saw the
See,
I saw the graphic. I saw the graphic.
If I can get it up here.
You don't have to
I'll have to send it to you. I'll send you that because there's let me see if I can find the actual. There it is, right there.
Hold up the graphic.
Here, let me turn off my background thing so I can show it.
Actually, what I need to do is, you're not okay.
Actually, you know what? I can just hold on.
There was a graphic out there, and what happened is immediately the internet just jumped on it. See, there was a time 45, 50 years ago, you could leak out a document, right? It's like a microfiche or something else, and people look at it, study, and the thing would have a lifespan of like, I don't know, decades, right?
Oh, yeah.
Possibly. Okay. Now you put something out, right? It goes on the internet. It's a lifespan of about 12 minutes because millions of people will eventually look at it, and somebody is going to be able to go, that's BS. And so that game is getting a very difficult game to play. So I'm going to speculate that was a night. And by the way, the ability to create fake stuff, fake documents now is 10 years old can do it. And so, and that makes it a little muddy. It muddies the waters, makes it a little more difficult. But on the other hand, while it's easier to create that stuff, it's much easier to just eliminate it, debunk it.
Oh yeah. Let me, I'm actually going to pull it up right now because I have it.
6 pages is, it's a substantial effort. It's a substantial effort.
Let's see here.
Look, I'm still disturbed by those 2 little things sticking out of that Tic Tac, because that doesn't feel alien to me, right? Doesn't feel ET to me. I'm a little disturbed by that. So it wouldn't shock me if that was true. But what's the government going to say? Yeah, it's us. Well, guess what? Where'd you get the tech to do that? Oh, no, we invented it ourselves. And so either way, even if it's us, it's a major indictment of the truth embargo. They can't win on this, but anything that keeps things rolling, keeps things turning, they'll go with it.
Oh yeah, and I looked up like the contract numbers. I went all out on it. Let me see here. 1, 2, is this it? Customer. Yep, I even got the customer contract requirements.
Okay, well, let's see how it holds up. Let's see if it holds up. I knew about the image. The image was debunked pretty quickly because it doesn't. There are people out there that know anything,
but I actually I looked at a couple things. Well, actually, some of my friends did too. Let me see here. All right, here's the downloads. All right, so this one right here is the first image that was dropped online.
Yeah. People in the know were able to debunk that right away because it is not the way those things were created. And that was within 2 days.
Okay. And then this one came up after that.
Oh, that could be anything.
It's got the Tic Tac on it.
Oh yeah.
Straight flying in the middle, but then
I love the little skunk up there, right? That's impressive.
And you do, yeah. And there's hold on. Then if you get into like the contract numbers, because I was doing that too at the same time, and they actually did have a contract with. Where is it here? Right there it is. DoD contract number, Lockheed Martin.
So here's another reason why this stuff gets done. Some of it is just to have some fun. And let me tell you, you know how many people are on the internet with access? You don't think there aren't people out there that could come up with a 50 or 100 page thing worked out? And with AI, oh my God. So, but on the other hand, it puts Lockheed Martin, and here's a positive. It puts Lockheed Martin in a tough spot because if it's not theirs, right? If it's clearly a
Well,
hoax.
these, like I'm saying, like these are like the actual DoD contracts off the actual website to look up the contracts from their site. These can't be fake.
Oh, okay, but the website doesn't say what these are.
No. Just the contract number. You have to look up what the contract is, and then you have to then it falls out from there. But
Okay, fine. If I'm doing a fake thing, why not? Yeah, you do that. Sure, that just makes it a little
contract
tougher.
number is right, but the page is not correct completely.
Sure. So that's all part of the game. It's part of the circus. It's part of the stuff that's entertaining, but keeps
Muddy the
dragging this
waters.
out. And I all I can say is people have a right to invest their time or whatever they want. But to me, I don't invest my time at all. What we want is Lockheed Martin to put out its own statement, 50-page manual of the actual programs that they're working on, but they aren't going to do that until they are compelled under the UAP Disclosure Act to do so.
So when they get, okay, say the Disclosure Act passes, everything goes fine, but they, all right, just like the congressman said, we went down there, we had the right clearances, we went down there and they said, you can't look at it, turn back around.
Well, the right clearances, that's not such a simple thing.
Well, I know.
They may think they have the right clearances.
Well, you get clear, like, okay, you get a TS. You can only go into all right, let's just say you get a secret. You get a secret, you can only go into the building. Then if you get a top secret, then you can go on the computer and look at the documents, but you can't do anything with them. You just look at them. Then you get the TS SCI. Then you can go into SCIFs and everything else. If you get the TS SCI plus whatever it is extra, that's for each additional program, right? Underneath of that.
Well, this is a generalized statement of how it works, but the classification schema in our country is labyrinthine. It's unbelievably complicated unless you know exactly who is there and what they are, and there's enough leeway probably, so that doesn't bother me that much. Okay. Though it irritated the members of Congress, which then set them off. And so again, it's basically a can't win situation for the government, but whatever. But in post disclosure, when the act passed, they will be looking to bring something forward. One way it goes is that will be brought to the review panel, the presidential review panel, UFO review panel, and they'll say, okay, it goes out, get classified, we all learn about it. Or they may say, look, you have to postpone this, not yet, and they have to then provide a reason and at least some sense of it. It's recorded, and it's held for a while, okay, and then eventually it'll come forward, and that's a simple, basic process, no big deal. Now, in a post-disclosure world with the legislation in place, and there's no more games to be played, really, anybody in a defense contractor, anybody working on a government unacknowledged special access program, that wants to screw around, hide some documents, maybe move the programs, you can't find it.
Or what did they say? No,
they're going to they're going to go to prison.
Like that was the worry with me, was we're going to see it like, okay, everything's going to pass, everything's going to go fine, except when you try to go to these programs and they say, no, you can't come in. Go ahead and try to take me to prison. I'll just turn on alien technology. Now you can't freaking even come in.
Well, basically, you're saying, are there people inside the United States government's national defense program that would use alien tech to exercise a coup on the government? Look, anything is possible, but not in the real
I mean, they'd be really stupid to do it, but could they do it? I mean,
no, it's just, we're getting down to the 0.1%. We're getting into lottery odds here. That's not going to happen. So, but if they do anything, it'll be because they really want to protect the country and they feel in the interest of the country. They need to take all the stuff and move it to, I don't know, a basement in Newark or
Australia.
something, or out of the country. They're going to get caught. They're going to go to jail. And after a few people get nailed, it'll move quickly. In other words, remember, well, first of all, The Disclosure Act will pass before we get disclosure from the president. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're going to have a period of time when stuff is coming forward, right? Before maybe the president confirms. Now, it's possible the president could step out tomorrow, in which case disclosures from the president comes first. But let's say the act comes first. And so now the stuff is coming forward, but the most super classified stuff, most controversial stuff, it's not coming forward yet. Okay.
I'm fine with that.
And so, but once that stuff's coming forward, okay, now whatever is coming out under the Disclosure Act, essentially it's over, right?
Yeah.
All this whatever it is, it's confirming the truth embargo. And so any president is going to sit there in a White House while that stuff is coming out every week, every month, and still going, I don't know. I mean, nobody tells me anything. And so I'm just saying, if the Disclosure Act becomes law and actually begins, by the way, there is a version of it that is illegal. It has been passed, and there's some things coming out, but it's not anything that's going to rattle the cages of the government. There is something happening. But the Disclosure Act in full would really start bringing things out. If I'm the president, I don't wait long, right? I mean, I take a beat, talk to some people, but you want to be on board with this. You want to be, part of the solution, not the problem. And so if the Disclosure Act goes in effect on, I don't know, January the 1st of 2026, if the president hasn't disclosed yet, the president will almost certainly do it pretty damn quick. But if I were advising the president, I would say you want to disclose before the act goes into play. That way, you are leading, right, the process, and not the Congress. I'm not throwing shade at the Congress. I'm simply saying I'm president, and I'm the commander in chief of our military and our national defense. I don't want to be following that legislation. I want to be leading that legislation. Yeah. And he's going to have months, right? I mean, it could get passed, but it won't be signed until later in the year. So he's got plenty of time to think about it. We'll see. Again, this is another thing that's in my mind regarding the possibility of our current president being the disclosure president. I'm not, and believe me, I'm completely nonpartisan on this. I'm not trying to push.
I'm non too. I mean, anything that gets us closer is better. Doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat,
Sure.
Libertarian. I don't care who you are, as long as you're pushing for the right thing. Like,
yes,
disclosure. And that's what I was going to ask next. Like, now, if we have non-human technology, which we do, as a scientist, what should we start focusing on first? Like to change stuff. Like, I know, okay, there's stuff in there that could, I don't know, stop fires or do this or help the ocean or clean up waste or, anything like that. What would be the first thing we'd look at to try to change, like with technology? Energy?
Look, in a more basic way.
Yeah.
Disclosure Act is passed. Things are coming forward. We're starting to learn in due course about certain technologies that have been researched and what have you. Panels will be set up to consider this and review it and what have you. And so pretty soon you've got members of Congress with more information about this, maybe still classified, but they're learning about it. And the president may be learning something that the president didn't know. And ultimately,
it's like with normal people, like you can study nuclear physics, but you can't, learn how to make an atom bomb. You know what I mean? But you can still learn about the physics.
The way it should be.
Yeah.
As the government learns about the science and the engineering that has been conducted during this truth embargo, they need to decide what should be advanced and what shouldn't. And they should take it to the people. If they're smart, they should take it to the people. In other words, they go to people and say, look, this is some of the new technology that we are now aware of.
Okay.
I think we need to consider developing this in this way. And then they'll take the temperature of the public, and they'll pass an act of some kind that is going to decide how that's going to be developed. Plus, there's the issue, does the government develop it purely in government realm, or do they do a joint venture with the contractors, whatever the hell? But it's not like the president is going to say, oh, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. No. There needs to be much more post-disclosure involvement of the general public in the decisions of what to do with all that is coming forward. For instance, if there is a breakthrough energy technology that's sitting there it's either already developed or could easily be, or it works, but it needs to be obviously developed to have mass impact.
Tweaked here and there.
I think, the public will be clamoring. I mean, they're going to say, absolutely. You get on that right now and get going. Okay. And there'll be other instances like that. If they try to play a secret game in that sense, okay, yeah, we've got this tech, but we're going to do what we're going to do when we want to do it. Don't bother us. That's not going to go well. Hopefully they're going to be wise. I'm happy to advise any member of Congress that wants to, but after disclosure, lying with respect to national security is going to be frowned on in ways that it never has. And those that want to, and in the era of the internet and social media and all that, more lying is not going to go well. In other words, after that, people are going to be expecting the truth. And they're going to be expecting it all the time. And every time you deviate, they're going to pop you. Whereas now you can still get away with an awful lot of lying because it's all tangled up in the entire military intelligence complex and other things. But once that lie is ended and people start to grasp the implications of that lie being maintained for 80 years and all that was lost and all that might have been, anybody that wants to play, what lie did we tell today at the DOD press office? They're going to find the internet's going to dissect that, and then they're going to have a bunch of people picketing in the parking lot. So I'm hoping that that's where people start going after this and realize, be a truth teller, do well. Be a liar, get pissed on.
How can journalists now set the bar high enough to filter these AI generated hoaxes without chilling the real evidence and getting the real stuff out there, because there is a lot of AI out there?
Well, that's true of everything. We're still adjusting. We've got a major task to.
How do we do it?
I
mean, if you had ultimate power, how would you make it so that journalists could have evidence that they could check that wasn't AI generated?
I can only say that AI is one of the greatest challenges the human race has ever faced. That we need legislation, we need education, we need policies and protocols. None of that is really happening. It's a free for all. Like we've had, like when the iPhone came along, or the smartphone, nobody said, what will be the effect on the brains of kids and their learning capability, their ability to even write?
To have that on their head 24/7.
Whatever. No, they didn't do it. They just out it goes. Same thing with AI.
Yeah.
But right now, AI, this thing is happening now quickly enough. I don't think AI is going to be much of a player. It makes it easier to fake some stuff. But fact is, while AI is good, it's not that difficult to know when you're dealing with AI. Now, the goal, of course, is to not be able to tell it all. They're going to knock themselves out to get there. There's a movie that just came out recently that's pretty there. But they're still not there yet. And so we can have disclosure this year. We could be into the post-disclosure world before they get that good. And over the interim period, hopefully some politicians with a brain and a little science background and whatever are going to put in some legislation to address the downsides of AI, so it doesn't become just another mistake that we've made, or a bad way of dealing with change. There's time to do that. They either will or they won't. But if they think the smartphone disrupted our society and our children and schooling, they have seen nothing yet. What AI can do to our society will tie it up in knots, may take generations to untangle. So let's hope they get their act together.
I mean, it's almost like we're being led in two different directions almost. One is good and one is like holding us back, trying to stop the dam from breaking, pretty much. That's where I'm thinking we're at right now. But like you said, they have to kind of filter what comes out now until they can get everything in place law-wise. They get stuff in place and then they can start getting some real stuff out, right?
Again, we have legislation, but it's not sufficient enough. We need the UAP Disclosure Act, and then that can be dealt with. But also keep in mind, there are plenty of other non-ET or UAP related stuff out there is major problems, great risk. All of those things also have to be dealt with. You can't pin your hopes on the idea that ending the truth embargo and going there is going to immediately bleed into how we're addressing these other policies. Though one can make a case that it could impact them in a positive way, but we have let so many things go. We have refused to fix so many major dysfunctions and problems. Mm-hmm. We have allowed things to get so seriously dysfunctional that it's not going to be easy to fix it. I mean, I'm the same way. People get a car and they drive it. They really don't repair it. And it finally gets so bad that it's not repairable. In which case you got to get rid of the car and get another one. Okay. I get that. That's not going to work with a planet. It's not going to work with 200 countries and how they operate. We don't get rid of it and go find another. And so the longer we refuse to address the issues and put fixes in and do positive, constructive stuff, we're creating a situation that's going to become intolerable. Not that it's already intolerable for a significant portion of the human race right now. It's that number, but it's a big number.
Oh, yeah.
It easily be 2 billion people are in an intolerable situation. I believe that number. Yeah. It can get a lot bigger than that. So what can I say? Let's hope we start doing the right stuff and improving the world, hopefully while I'm still alive. And I can appreciate that. So, it's good. Put a text out there, put up on X. Good job, Department of Defense. Good job, UN, right? Good job, Vatican, whatever. It'd be nice to get a little of that, in my way out, but whatever.
What outcomes would make the September 9th hearing significant in your view?
Well, we want it to go well.
Yeah.
But we want to generate a lot of media, which it will. We don't want anything in there that's bogus. That's for sure. Hopefully that's not even an issue. Mm-hmm. And just having it is going to, obviously improve sets the stage for the next hearing. And each hearing we have, the prospects of going to an even higher level. There are still a lot of witnesses out there that surpass the ones that have testified so far.
Yeah.
And we need them. And so each hearing makes it a little easier for the next one, and how it goes. So at minimum, it's just part of, you're just taking one step at a time. Now we're taking too long between hearings. I mean, Grush's hearing was July of 2023.
Yeah.
The next hearing wasn't until November. The next major hearing wasn't until November of 24. And that was November. And now we're going to be about 8 months. We should be having a hearing on this about once a month, to be honest with you. There's so much. So we need to speed it up. We need to speed things up. But that's what I would expect. And we'll assess it afterwards. Also, the more the Congress engages this, the more members of Congress that sit in these hearings, and also other events like what the UAP Disclosure Fund put on. I think it was May 1, very significant thing. We had a whole bunch of people there, like 10 or 12. That went on for hours. Every time we have one of those, it makes it easier for more members of Congress to get involved because they're seeing they're doing fine. It's okay. They're fine, no problem. And so the more to get involved, the better, because ultimately, again, the entire Congress has got to vote on these acts. And if they don't know Jack, or if they have delusions about this issue, then you get a negative vote that otherwise you wouldn't get. And so
Yeah.
it generally just gets better and better. And so I'm happy about that. But we're too slow. We've got to pick it up, because there are existential circumstances shaping up in the world. We don't have the luxury of just cruising on this and we'll get to it when we get to it, because this issue, not only its resolution, but things that happen with respect to this issue and the non-human tech engagement have enormous implications for these other existential crises and problems we're facing. And to the extent that we don't get there, they're not having the opportunity to impact that. We need a reset of global diplomacy, global policies, and a lot of other things. And we simply don't have the basis for that reset now. And while I appreciate Ronald Reagan's statements about, if we had that ET threat, we'd all come together, right? Wouldn't we? And we'd get along?
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't. We would come together because there was a fear worse than there's a hatred or a fear worse than the fears we have with each other.
Yeah.
And we'll put those fears aside. We'll deal with the ET thing, which we'll lose. Okay, we haven't got a chance.
Oh, yeah.
But let's say we win, we're going to go back to the same stuff we had before, right? We're going to start fearing each other and fighting each other. And so it's an old school approach. It's the old school approach. What we need is a reset, a paradigm shift that is not about fear. It's about hope, aspiration, and change. That's what disclosure is. And so if you can come together around that, you can ultimately put your hatreds for country to country, religion to religion, actually start pushing back on those and getting away from that, right? Because it seems, in other words, if you got to hate the ETs and then go out and kill them all, the idea that's going to change your behavior after the fact, that's not going to change. But if you come together to address what amounts to a post-disclosure world in which the presence of this non-human tech is accepted, and we may even be interacting with these non-humans, which I think follows pretty quickly, that is a context for people to seriously consider, do we want to continue to run the world this way?
Yeah.
Now that we're here? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. It's crazy, right? And before you know it, people that want to play that game, they're going, hey, they raise their hand and say, I want to run this whole country. We're going to create a big army. We're going to destroy the world. People say, we're going to put you in an institution for a while, give you some meds, and maybe you'll chill. Okay. Or if you don't, we'll just keep you there forever, instead of going out and going, oh, yes. We will make you the dictator, and you will do wonderful things and conquer our enemies. That has to end. We have no more room for that anymore. It just happened to fall on this generation or these last 4 generations.
Yeah.
And so we may witness finally getting away from that, or we may not. But this is the first time we've ever even been in arm's length of ending the human behavior and ingrained behavior of war by politics, of other means. It's been going on for 12,000 years. War over religion, war over food, over land, over just out of sheer arrogance. Anything you could come up with to go to war, we did it. This has been going on for 12,000 years, and only until recently have we even had the remotest chance to get away from that. The League of Nations, no way. The UN didn't do it. So this, one can make a case. I wish some of the academics would start writing this up with words that I don't know and really put it in a context that's robust. Not yet. There's a little of that. There's some citizen, I guess you could say, thinkers that have put some pieces together, which are interesting. Some of them are just too filled with ET stuff and not about worldview change. I mean, the man that needs to write the ultimate book on the paradigm shifts implications for leaving 12,000 years behavior is Danny Sheehan. He could do it. The guy's so busy. He hasn't got time. But he is someone with the capability to write that book. Nice. All I can do is allude to it now. But it's a simple thing. up until recently, we have not had even the remotest chance to end war amongst humans, state to state, religion to religion. Not even close. And suddenly you can almost feel it. It's like almost in reach, right?
Yeah.
And we see the way there, at least I do. And so let's see what happens. But it's what keeps me going. I mean, because I'm pretty burned out on the subject. I mean, I can barely watch a video on the subject because it's been for 30 years, you know. I
I
need to
know.
watch this stuff. I'm kind of burned. I'd like to get this
Your
over
brain
with.
hurts, right, from all this information.
Yeah, I could take up the guitar, whatever. I could, take a couple of cruises, whatever. But until then, this is it. There's nothing more important than this.
Disclosure is it. There is nothing more important than that. Why? Now, I heard you in the other podcast that I was listening to, why do the Epstein case files matter? If at all, to the conversation, accountability, the government, you know what I mean? If we're talking about UAP discrepancies, why throw in Epstein?
Okay, well, I have.
Okay, yeah.
I kind of didn't want to get into. I didn't. Well, not want to, but I didn't get into it too strongly this time. That's okay, but you brought it up. So I'll be brief because I want to end at 8:00 if I could.
Oh, you're good. Yep.
And get the promos in. So, and let me again say, this is an absolutely nonpartisan assessment and speculation. There's nothing partisan about it. I assure you. You may think so. You may think, right? Or because you don't agree with some component of it, you assume it's partisan. It is not. Mm-hmm. So, essentially, my overall understanding so far of this huge scandal is it's pretty big. Now, no, I'm not alone in that. I assure you. All right. Let's say I'm agreeing with a lot of pretty smart people.
Yeah.
Regardless of their politics, that this is a huge deal. And it's going to pose a very, very big problem for the administration and very possibly the president and a lot of other people, very wealthy, powerful people, right? This is a big deal. And if it is the case that it could be, you've heard of catastrophic disclosure?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If it's the case that this is potentially a catastrophic scandal that cannot be made to go away, then that is one very, very good reason to make the move that I suggested, which is to grab an extraordinary political legacy and do something of enormous value to the world because you can, and it's not hard.
Yeah.
And then whatever else happens, your overall outcome and legacy is going to be a lot better.
And that was actually my next question to you. My last question was, what do you want your legacy in this movement to be?
Me?
You.
I'm just
you're a figurehead in this movement too, moving,
I'm not the head of the movement. No, I'm not the head of the movement. Look, I'm a poor political activist without portfolio. Well, see, the dog thinks I should be big. Look, look, I'm one of a few people. There are very few people that are where I'm at. Well, let me explain that. There are researchers. We know many of them. Researchers have certain protocol they have to operate under. The way you get information, the way you put it out, support it, back it up, and everything else. And you're a researcher. That neutrality is essential, right?
Yes.
And so they have a protocol. I'm not a journalist. Journalists have very substantial protocols. And because they adhere to those protocols, they have kind of the right to, they have the license to call up anybody. Call up a member of Congress, a movie star, whatever the hell, and say, we're doing a story, we want to talk about it, fine. And they can do investigative journalists, same thing. Okay, so they have their own protocols. A witness, I'm not a witness. Witnesses have protocols, particularly if you're government-based or you've been in government, you have security clearances, whatever.
Yeah.
You have protocols, there's certain ways, things you can do and say, how you go about it. Okay. I'm not that either. I am a political activist. Okay. I have no protocols, essentially. None.
Well, I'm still going to remember your name because you were pushing this forward.
Yeah, but let me finish. Let me finish because I'm going to get this down right because I'm going to be doing this, saying this often. I don't have any protocols. I can say and do what I want, whether anybody likes it or doesn't like it, or to refer to a well-known movie phrase. If you're of a certain age, so you might remember, I don't need no stinking badges. All right. And so, but that is limiting and also freeing up. As an activist, I just can't call up anybody and they're going to go, who are you? Well, I'm a political, I don't want to talk to you. Right. Okay. Same thing with journalists. I can't act like a journalist. So I'm an activist. Activists have a different agenda. They have different latitude of action. But you don't get hired, right? So your journalists can be, working for a paper. Researchers can, monetize their work much more readily. I'm an activist, and monetization is a mistake. Paywall is a mistake, so I don't do that. So I have limited resources and somewhat of a confined, how would you say, confined spectrum of. By the way, as I'm getting of an age, the words aren't coming like they used to.
Confined spectrum of work area.
Yeah, spectrum of action. It's like so.
Yeah.
I'm a populist, and so I don't have the credentials, the PhDs, the money, the distinguished career, and all of that. My life didn't work out that way. I had a shot at that, but things kind of went off the rails a long, long time ago, and so I found a niche, and I'm basically a populist activist. And ultimately, my role is communication, which I'm relatively good at, but not communication to a panel of geniuses or world leaders. No, to the people.
Yeah.
To try to convey this to the people. What's important, what's not important, what they should know, how they should engage it in a language they can understand, and also tell a lot of people, right? Which if I had a more distinguished early life, I think I'd have a broader audience. But I built up a pretty good audience. So I'm a populist and a communicator to try to explain this to the people. And I think that is my role, and that is my legacy. Is that he was a populist activist and he helped get the truth embargo. And that's enough for me. Others have aspirations for much more profound legacies, and they deserve them, and they may very well achieve them.
Yeah. All right, we got one question actually for you, Steve. Here.
Okay.
Post U.S. truth embargo, what are the ramifications to her allies if you were to game that out? Thank you, Steve, for fascinating insight. Plenty of takeaways here. Truth embargo ramifications to allies.
Yeah, I don't think her is supposed to be there, right?
To allies. I just say allies.
I don't know who it is.
Allies.
Well, the ramifications to that and everything else are almost innumerable. You can't even think of them all. But the first ramification to our allies, and by that I mean the major allies, the nuke nations, and of course our chief, adversary nations, we know who they are, is that what are they going to, how far are they going to go with disclosure themselves? What are they going to bring out? How much are they going to admit to? All right. How much are they going to divulge? All right. So that's number one. So that's an immediate ramification. They got some decisions to make there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing is there will be a substantial motivation and maybe need for some summits. In other words, we need to get top leaders together to at least begin dialogues on this. It could be Zoom calls. I don't know, but they need to start talking at the highest levels about this. They don't want to just go off in a room somewhere and start talking to their own people. Let's communicate. Let's start expressing our thinking on that. So that's important. And then
I guess I got it right here. In the UK, we refer to our country as her. So I was being polite. So the UK country. I guess he's from the UK. Yep.
I did not know that. I've been to the UK a number of times, spent months there. Her Majesty's Kingdom. So if you're talking about the UK and you say What do you think she wants to do about that situation in such and such? You're referring to your country. Okay, I'm good with that. Okay.
All right. Ramifications to truth embargo for the UK versus US and all them,
His or her countries, right? His or her country. So there's that. Okay.
Okay.
And then one of the chief ramifications is that there is a presence. It's been confirmed. Hopefully, not long after the truth embargo is ended and we get disclosure, we will be able to access enough information, which I think they have, okay, where they come from. In other words, I think the government knows exactly where they come from, but it doesn't benefit the truth embargo to have it be pinned down. And so if you got all these possibilities, time travel, all this kind of stuff, that just keeps things a little more under control. I think very quickly we will find out where they're from. And wherever they're from, they're here, right? But from the other stars is the most, to me, important, the most logical, and the most impacting, and the least controversial and the least dangerous. Okay, and so let's say that's the case. So very quickly we get that confirmation. Now, one of the implications for all of the countries, including our allies, is we need to start preparing for open contact.
Oh, yeah.
We need to start preparing for when they actually start engaging us as a civilization and not just showing up occasionally in our bedroom at 2 a.m. or a game of pinochle. So it's like, that's a very important thing. We don't want to wait until it happens. I believe it's going to happen pretty soon, 2 years maybe. So they need to start talking about that. They need to start really engaging about how we should think about open contact and their very existence, right? And so forth. So that's so forth. And then they need to start building structures. One of the most important implications for allies is, and by that, all the nations,
the embassy,
they've got to build some structures. And one of the very first decisions they've got to make, they need to very quickly either completely reform the UN or get rid of it and replace it with an appropriate 21st century entity, right? UN for our times. And that needs to
be a world government, UN, and everyone is involved, no matter if you're in or not. Every country is involved. That's the way it should be with it. Not you need to come in and we're a world. It should be a world council or a world.
No, the UN is not a world government.
No, I know.
The UN is basically a world entity where people can interact, and that is what we need, right? And interact at an appropriate level. And I say it's not a world government. That's not quite there. It has some limited global ability to affect countries. That's not a world government. A true world government is like, okay, you do that, we're going to do this, you do real, and you're running everything. No. Whether or not that's going to expand, I have no idea. But at minimum, we need an organization where all the nations have representatives. They can come in and talk about everything. And the way the UN is structured is all screwed up. It needs to be done so it is a really appropriate, balanced forum, right, where everybody has a voice. Whatever the hell, we need to do that. That's one of the very quick things that needs to happen. And then, of course, they're all obligated, absolutely, from day one, to decide: are we going to get rid of these nukes, or are we going to still make be idiots and continue to deal with that? Well, that doesn't mean we're giving up war, but are we going to get rid of the nukes? That's one of the first obligations they will have.
Man, I'm telling you, I've got something coming up too on Friday that, oh man, I know he's going to tell me no, but Timothy Phillips, former Aero director, is coming on my podcast.
Congratulations.
I gotta figure out, tailor my questions and stuff to meet what I'm trying to get out of disclosure. You know what I mean? I want it to be a good discussion like me and you had, not pinpointed and everything.
May I offer some advice?
Sure.
Don't be confrontational at all. Make him feel as comfortable as possible, right?
That's why his wife actually told me in the beginning that he would do it, because he watched some of my shows and he said, "You're just funny." And I said, "You're fun going." I said, "Yeah, that's all I want to do."
Okay. But also this is, You got latitude with somebody like me, but with him, I might get too funny. You want to kind of keep it serious, low key, safe, and let him speak.
Yeah.
Let him get stuff out, right? And I'm saying somebody that talks too much, I get interrupted. That's okay. But he is not just somebody with some thoughts about this. He was involved in it. Everything that happened with Arrow, one way or another, is an issue that he's addressing and has to do it. So he needs time to think about his words, get them out, and then you can interject, and it'll go just fine. Okay, let's do some promos and wrap this up, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. I can actually go ahead, wrap this up. It's like a 3-minute outro for the video. What I'll do is, sir, I'll just send you this video as soon as it's done, and you can download this video, and then you can just pick it apart and do what you need to if you want.
Okay, very quick promos. Paradigm Research Group is my organization. I made it a 501c3, anticipating major breakthroughs, and I did that about a year ago. And so now it's accepting tax deductible donations on the website, which still is under construction. That was pretty good. And so I'm looking to raise enough X conference since 2010 at the National Press Club, 2 blocks from Washington. So that's my major project, and I'm working with other entities and doing best I can. But I'm not noted for being heavily funded. New Paradigm Institute needs lots of funding. They're a much bigger entity. They're involved in the politics in a big way. They're also running the most expanded citizen engagement program where you can contact the Congress and so forth. NewParadigmInstitute.org. You want to support it. UAP Disclosure Fund is becoming a major player. They had an event in the Capitol. They've got something else coming up. They are a nonprofit as well, though they set up a 501c4 political entity called the new, I think, UAP Disclosure Action Fund. And there's a lot of heavy-duty people involved in that. Feel free to support them, particularly if, support them and what have you. And join and sign up, whatever you got to do, okay? Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is growing, and it's a content networking entity, so connecting Hollywood people or film people with UAP people. We're up to 220 members. We have 220 founding members. It's also not a nonprofit. We everything we do for these members is free. Essentially, they pay a little dues, but any serious funding, we could really ramp up what the HollywoodDisclosure.org is doing. HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org is doing. Not the least being probably a very cool awards dinner and so forth. Support HDA if you can. We've got conferences coming up. I'm going to be up in Exeter this weekend. If you're up that area, come over for the Exeter Festival. I'll be doing my usual spiel, though I'm going to try to have fun with the kids. And then there's another event that it's been scheduled and it could be huge. It's called the State of the World Forum. The website is stateoftheworld.forum. There's a lot of domains now, right? But that's probably okay. Stateoftheworld.forum. You got to check it out, see what's going on there. It could be very, very big. And so this is kind of what's going on right now. Is there any other conferences coming up? Well, there's actually several conferences that have just come to my attention. If you go to my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org, and go up in the left corner and subscribe, you'll go right on my list. I'm about to put out a huge, reference post with links to all kinds of stuff, conferences and that, to get you prepared for the rest of this year. So if you subscribe, you'll get that from me pretty soon. And that's my promos for today.
All right, that sounds good, man. I can't wait to see everything happening in disclosure and everything get moving forward. And I'm glad you're with us today. And I hope to have you on again, sir. I could talk to you forever.
Thanks, Jay. I can talk forever, apparently. By the way, you like my cool AI background that I came up with on the internet? It's amazing. It looks so real. It's fantastic. All right, dude. Until next time. Take care.
Have a great one, man.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. So that was Steve Bassett. Oh, man, it's going to be a good one. So this Friday, stay tuned. I'm still working out the time on when Timothy will be on as far as coming on the podcast and everything. So as soon as I find out from him, I will let you guys know. I'll drop a post inside of there, or you'll see the video come up. But that again, that will be coming up here on Friday, and it'll be right around. I'm hoping it'll be around 6 o'clock. So Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you should see Timothy Phillips, former Aero director. He'll be on here talking about the latest and greatest stuff that he is working on now that he has freed up his time to work on disclosure more appropriately. So we'll go ahead and end this here. And like I said, you guys, thank you for paying attention. Thank you for being part of this galactic family. And we're going to keep it going. I want disclosure so bad. I could taste it. And I know everybody here can too. So let's just keep moving. Okay. You guys have a guest idea, bring them my way. I'll have them on. You guys have a book that discusses ETs, UAPs, technology. Send me an email. I'll have you on the next day. Whenever you think that you have some information you need to get out, contact me. Contact me in my email. It's on the site under the description of my channel page. Get in contact with me. I'm a MUFON Section State Director. I have some connections when it comes to other people, and we can get your case worked out, what it might be. Photos, videos, experiences. I'd love to hear about your experience. Personal experiences, I've got many. I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours. ET experiences. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Love you all. Galactic family. Just remember, we're what? Come on. We are all one species, born of Earth, to spread peace, love, and understanding throughout the galaxy. Let's do it, guys. All right. Love you all. Hopefully, I'll see you on Friday. Have a good night.